I've been traveling with my kids for quite some time. Since they were little, I was always eager to take them places. I was under the impression that they will remember those trips. Obviously they didn't. I truly believe that when parents travel with small kids, they do it for themselves and for social media. Let's admit we're all eager to show to the world how good of a parents we are and how well we treat them and places we take them. Even if our kids won't remember it, which they won't, their memory starts to recognize these kind of trips from the 7-8 years old. Up until then, you're only doing it for yourself, so be honest with yourself. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. I come from an Eastern European family. We were taught as kids to bring our kids when we will have our own kids everywhere because our parents brought us everywhere. There was never a trip that they would take by themselves, which is very popular nowadays. Young couples just take some time off, leave the kids with their parents and go for a week or two. I never did that. I was never encouraged to do that, and my parents never did that with us. We were always part of the trip, part of the plans, and we always followed them wherever they went. I did the same thing with my children. I started taking them on my trips from a very young age, and here are a couple of things that I learned along the way that really helped me with my travels when it comes to having little children around. Number one is I start packing very early. About actually 4 weeks before we even decide where we're going. I know that in 4 weeks we're gonna travel. Then I start packing, I start making plans, I start taking notes. I have a notepad that I keep strictly for travel, and anything that comes to my mind, anything that I remember, I make a note of it and I make sure that everything is taken down because I don't trust just my memory. As a single parent, you get kind of carried away with so many things in your life. But when it comes to travel, start early. There's never too early if you're traveling with small children. So that's number one thing. Another thing that I do is I always dress my kids and myself in very bright colors. They can spot you from a distance and you can spot them from a distance. So I always make sure they have neon colors, red colors, pink colors, and the same thing with me. And we always look at each other to make sure we remember before we leave the house who is wearing what. We identify the colors and we say each other's names as well because my children are now in a toddler stage. I make sure they know me by name, so if anything goes wrong at the airport, they can shout out my name as opposed to just shouting out mommy, which is gonna kind of strike people around them if they start saying Valentina instead of mom. Another thing that I do is I make sure I pack lunch. I know everyone kind of says the same thing, but I don't pack a full lunch. I only take snacks, cookies, and water. I know that feeding your children at the airport can get quite pricey, but that eliminates all of the mess that you're gonna make around yourself if you try to feed them somewhere in another place at the airport. So I usually feed them very well at home before we leave. I make sure they have a proper lunch, proper dinner, depending on what time we're traveling. And when we get to the airport, I only keep water and light snacks with me. First of all, they're gonna get too excited at the airport to actually look for food. Unless you want them to sit down and be calm for 10 minutes, that's when you feed them. Other than that, I just let them explore and walk around, obviously with me by their side. And then if they see something they want to eat, I would rather spend those extra couple of dollars and I feed them right there on the spot, a hot sandwich or hot cup of tea. So in the long run, if you think about it, this is quite reasonable for you to do with your children. Always pack extra clothes, not only for your children, but for yourself as well. I learned that the hard way. I was traveling last year with my children, an accident happened, and I was left with a dirty shirt for the rest of the flight. It was a long flight. So make sure you pack some extra clothes for yourself as well. Bring blue painter's tape to secure, and if you're staying in a hotel, it's very important, especially when you have small children, they stick their fingers into everything. So I find that that blue tape, I can just cover all the outlets, even close the door if needed. So it's a very easy and cheap hack. So bring it with you, you're not gonna regret it. bring gravel, please do. I cannot emphasize enough how much it helped me when traveling with kids. I make sure to give them a dose before getting on a plane. Even actually when we sit in our seats already and we're settled in, I would give them like a shot of gravel. It helps with the ear pain, it calms them down. It can actually put them to sleep and make the whole taking off the plane that much easier for them. So don't be afraid to give them a little bit of drugs when they get on the plane, especially if it's their first time. It's there's nothing wrong with it. Gravel is get the gravel for children, get gravel for yourself, and maybe all of you can have a short nap before you start to get nervous for being so long on the plane. Practice safety with your kids. As the old age goes, and although you can't foresee every possible scenario that could go wrong, it's good to have the basics down. So talk with your children what they should do in case of an emergency, who they should go to, who they should ask for help if you are not around, if they can ask another parent, teach them to stay put until they find someone or meet you at a specific spot. So whatever you plan you have in place, go through it with your children before you go on that long flight. Remember exactly so they know exactly what to do when the panic sets in. And it's good to practice that with them so they feel more comfortable and more confident. In case this or that happen, I know I can stay here and my mom is gonna find me. Pack a medical kit. Kids will be kids, and scrapes, falls, and bruises are part of growing up. And when you're traveling with kids, having a medical first aid kit could come in handy. I just usually pack some band-aids, disinfectant spray, and ibuprofen. Another thing that I do with my children is I create information cards and I put them in their pocket with my phone number, contact information, their name, emergency names. Maybe I can add my parents or my sister, so God forbid, in case anything happens, they can pull it out of their pockets, or whoever has them can go through their pockets and find some of that information, and they can track you down and make sure that your children are safe. Number one thing is, do not leave your children unattended. Even if you see that the airport is filled with security and people and children, do not leave your children unattended. Whatever I do, I take them with me. Even if it's the washroom, I will go to the family washrooms. It doesn't matter. I'll bring all of them with me, no matter how uncomfortable they feel, even if they're a little bit older. And if you are lucky enough, like I am, and you have a teenager that can travel with you, which I do. My daughter usually travels with me. My son is not that up for traveling with kids. He will here and there, but my daughter usually always comes on those trips with me, and I usually instruct her, give her kind of hacks and tricks what to do, and we usually divide the children. I watch the little one, she watches the toddler. So if you have the opportunity to bring an extra person with you, whoever wants to travel, I'm talking from a single parent's perspective, then do incur that expense and do take that extra person with you, because it is going to help you to have that extra set of eyes, extra set of hands when you are traveling. But in general, stay safe, watch your children, and have safe travels this summer. I will see you next time.